We will discuss the Israeli siege on Al-Shifa Hospital in Gaza and what the laws of war say about it. The Israeli Defense Forces, which entered the Gaza Strip at the end of October, announced that Al-Shifa Hospital had been completely surrounded and isolated. According to the Israelis, Hamas will hide most of its weapons and ammunition stores inside and beneath this hospital and will place its main command and communication centers there. Al-Shifa Hospital is one of the largest hospitals in Gaza and receives thousands of civilians every day, creating a challenging situation for the Israelis. The question is, attack to destroy the command centers and ammunition depots, endangering civilians used by Hamas as human shields, or continue the siege, putting trapped civilians at risk? To answer these questions, we must return to the laws of war. This may seem strange, but war also has laws and codes of conduct that must be followed, and the most widely accepted set of laws in this regard is the Geneva Conventions. The first Geneva Convention was adopted on the treatment of wounded soldiers on the battlefield. This convention was a response to the lack of rules for treating war wounded. For example, during the Napoleonic Wars, wounded soldiers on the battlefield often received little or no attention, considered an additional burden that hindered the progress of the army and medical care. Medical supplies were primarily provided to officers. With the First Geneva Convention, the armies of the signatory states were legally obliged to treat the wounded, both their own and those of the enemy. The convention was extended to apply to sick soldiers, not just the wounded, but also to shipwrecked individuals floating at sea. However, there was significant progress years after the horrors of World War I, when special measures were taken regarding prisoners of war. This complemented the Hague Conventions, the first step toward regulating the treatment of prisoners of war. Finally, 4 years after the horrors of World War II, the Fourth Geneva Convention was signed, focusing for the first time on the protection of civilians. This was a response to the brutal and inhumane conditions endured by millions of civilians during the war, many of whom were considered legitimate military targets. Many articles of the Fourth Geneva Convention deal with civilian hospitals, describing how they should be labeled and what they can or cannot contain. The article of the convention states that civilian hospitals must not be attacked under any circumstances and must be properly marked for quick identification from land, air, and sea. However, the article of the Fourth Geneva Convention states that a civilian hospital can become a lawful target if it is determined that the enemy is using the facility to attack the enemy or to store weapons and ammunition. In this case, the hospital becomes a legal target, but the convention prohibits the attacker from attacking immediately, requiring that the alarm be given in advance and an evacuation order be issued, providing all appropriate facilities to safely evacuate civilians and patients. Only when these conditions are met can the object be attacked. This brings us to the issue of Al-Shifa Hospital in the Gaza Strip, which, as mentioned earlier, the Israelis believe serves as a storage facility for weapons and ammunition, as well as the main command and communications center for Hamas in the Gaza Strip. The Israelis have released videos they believe confirm these accusations, but this cannot be reasonably confirmed. Although an evacuation order has been issued, the Israeli side has not yet issued a definitive order or schedule. However, according to recent statements, it seems likely that Israeli forces will eventually move to these locations to destroy what they believe is the main command center of Hamas in the Gaza Strip. If this happens, Hamas's decision on what to do with all these civilians will mean the difference between life and death for many innocent people. If you like the content, please like, share, and subscribe to the channel. Until next time.